Hi, Taylor T. Carlson, and I'm back with yet another vinyl record haul video for you. Plenty of stores around Vegas, and of course plenty of websites that I order from, so I'm still finding myself with plenty of records. That hasn't changed, and I certainly am going to have to watch my budget here over the coming months, especially with Christmas coming up, because everywhere I go and I see records, it's hard not to spend money, and that has absolutely not changed. Anyway, let's go ahead and get on with this countdown because there's plenty of good stuff to be had here. First thing I got, this is the vinyl version of Blue Oyster Cult's new album, The Symbol Remains. Their first studio album in about 20 years, so great to see these guys back on the scene. Very strong album. I was pleasantly surprised by this. This might be my pick for album of the year. Got a great looking gatefold in here. You got lyrics on one side, and you got some photos of the band backstage on the other. And I actually got one of the limited edition releases off of the Frontiers Record Store American site. It's got white vinyl. They also made turquoise and purple vinyls as well, but unfortunately I missed out on those. I might do a more thorough release review for this at a later date. And now we're going to move on to a few things I bought over at Record City. My buddy Joey over there always takes care of me. Great guy and great selection of stuff. Going to look at a few 45s first. This is Duran Duran, Union of the Snake. One of the greatest new wave rock pop bands of the 1980s. This also has a B-side on it called Secret October, which was not included on the Seven and the Ragged Tiger album that this song was featured on. Next one I got was 26 Miles by the Four Preps. Unfortunately, no art on this one, but this song was featured prominently in the opening scene of the movie Bad Times at the El Royale, which came out about 2 years ago. It also has a B-side track called Big Man as well, so very nice to add this to my collection. Always great to go really far back in time. And the last of the three I have is a single of Rock Me Amadeus by Falco. Great Austrian musician, probably best known for this song as well as the song Der Kommissar, which was later covered by a group called After the Fire. And this has the American edit of the song, which has the woman's voice in it in a few places, so it's a little different from the original version, but it's the version that American radio audiences are probably most familiar with. For the B-side, it has a new 86 edit mix of the song Vienna Calling, so nice to get an extra B-side on there as well. And a few other things that I got from Joey the other day. This is a Record Store Day exclusive, one of my favorite things I picked up. This is Cheap Trick Out to Get You Live 77. This was filmed in 1977 at the Whiskey A Go-Go, in between the band's first and second albums. Cover art's pretty cool. If you hold it at just the right light angle there, you can kind of see the Cheap Trick logos down at the bottom there. And then back cover with all the info, kind of the same deal. You can see the album title right there if you hold it just right in the light. And got a gatefold here with an essay and great vintage shot of the band there 40 plus years ago. Cheap Trick, hands down, one of my favorite rock bands of all time. Any chance I get to add new stuff of theirs to my collection, I do so. Speaking of which, I actually got two other Cheap Trick vinyls over at the actually, I'll do these in chronological order. This is All Shook Up. This was their fifth studio album released in 1980. Produced by the legendary George Martin, best known for his work with the Beatles. And then this actually has the original insert as well. Great underrated album. This one came out right after the Dream Police album, so it tends to be a little overlooked, but it's actually, I think, one of their strongest and most underrated albums. Maybe not my personal favorite, but one that deserves a second look. The other one I got was Standing on the Edge. This came out in 1985. This was something of I don't know if I'd call it a full-on comeback record, but after a somewhat quiet period, they made a little bit of a comeback with the hit song Tonight It's You, which I guess was sort of a predecessor to their next few releases when they put out that song The Flame, and that ended up being a huge hit for them, pretty much reviving them. And I'll show off the insert in here. This one has John Brandt on bass rather than Tom Peterson, their usual bassist. So, an interesting phase in their career. Got the shot of the band there, and all the pertinent info there. Yeah, the first Cheap Trick song that I ever heard was Mighty Wings from the Top Gun soundtrack, because that's the movie I've seen more times than any other, and it's the soundtrack I've listened to more times than any other. These last few releases I got from Zia, specifically their West Vegas store over on Rainbow. First release, and here's the one I'm probably the most pleased with. This is the Lethal Weapon movie soundtrack. The title cut on this is performed by the band Honeymoon Suite and features production from Ted Templeman, one of the biggest names in the business. Here's the back cover. Got a great scene from the movie there, as well as a few other movie screenshots there. But the real surprise of this one is the record itself. There's also an insert here with some reissued movie soundtracks and things, so it's kind of cool to get that in there as well. And anyway, like I was saying, the record itself is not your average vinyl record. It's clear. So that's a nice little bonus there. I always love getting vinyl releases that are a different color or that just plain look a little different from what you'd normally expect. Another big surprise I got when I was at Zia, I found this used for like $8. The Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl. This is like the only official Beatles live album, even though it didn't come out until like 7 years after they'd broken up. But this is very cool, filmed at Hollywood Bowl concerts in 64 and 65. Nice mix of tracks. Just one record, but there is some great stuff to be heard here. More Beatles content of any kind is always appreciated. Got a shot of Screaming Young Fans there, and on the back you got like copies of their autographs, which is kind of nice. Next up, Van Halen 5150. First Van Halen album that was not produced by Ted Templeman and which did not feature David Lee Roth on vocals. This was Sammy Hagar's debut into the band. We just lost Eddie Van Halen, sadly, one of the all-time great men of the electric guitar. And this release has some great tunes on it. You got things like Best of Both Worlds, Love Walks In, and a lot of great deep cuts as well. Here's the lyric sheet and great Van Halen logo on the back there. It was great to revisit this one, of course. A lot of people tend to rip on the Sammy era, but I like pretty much every era of Van Halen, so I'm certainly not complaining. I enjoy this album. Next up, Rough Diamond. Probably a band you've never heard of, but there's a lot of guys in this band that were in some other fairly notable bands. Vocalist David Byron was the original singer for Uriah Heep. Clem Clemson was in Humble Pie. And then Jeff Britton had previously played with Wings, Paul McCartney's solo band. And some nice stuff there. They only, I think, made the one album, but it's a good album. Maybe a little more mainstream sounding than Uriah Heep, for instance, but I think it's worth checking out. And this was the last thing I bought when I was in Zia. Last thing I'll cover in this list as well. This is the soundtrack to the film Thief of Hearts. I've never seen this movie before, actually. In fact, I'd only faintly heard of it. But it's got a nice mix of Harold Faltermeyer score tracks as well as some pop tracks as well, including one by Elizabeth Daily, a.k.a. E.G. Daily, who you probably remember from movies like Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Better Off Dead, and as a voice actress in shows like The Powerpuff Girls and Rugrats. And one thing that attracted me to this release was it shared a lot of the same crew as Top Gun, including producers Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer, and of course Harold Faltermeyer doing the score. In fact, the final confrontation music on this soundtrack actually appears briefly in Top Gun during the opening flying scenes. And there you have it. Have you picked up any new vinyl lately? Are there any great vinyl stores where you live? Comment down below and let me know what you have to say. Also remember to subscribe to my channel for additional content because I'm posting all the time. And like this video if you found it helpful or interesting. I'm Taylor T. Carlson and I will see you on my next video.